I'd been stabbed 17 times in my back. And that was the first moment where I really thought, if I don't pretend to be dead, they're going to really kill me. I'd been driving probably for an hour and a half, and there weren't many cars on the road. It's a very isolated road. I was just driving on the freeway, just having a marvelous time singing and being happy that I was on vacation. And I looked to my left, and there was a car with 4 young people in it. And I had an idea, they're gonna mess with me. I'm not gonna make eye contact. And I speeded up, and they speeded up, and I slowed down, and they slowed down, so they started pacing me. And then on the passenger side of their car, 2 people leaned out. They had these large, like almost tree branches, very 2-3 inches in diameter, and they moved their car sideways into mine, and they started beating on my car. And I was just terrified, and I tried to slow down and pull around behind them, and they turned their car perpendicular across both lanes of the freeway. There was no one else on the road. It was 2:30 in the morning. I could see all the trucks way far in the distance, and I thought, well, if I could just get up there with them, I'll be okay. And I was trying to get the windows rolled up, and apparently I didn't roll up the window on the passenger side because they pushed me off of the freeway, basically. And I stopped because I was terrified and I didn't know what to do. So they jumped out of their car, and the woman ran around to the passenger side of my car and just reached in the window and unlocked the door because I hadn't rolled the window up. And she reached over me, she had a knife, and she stuck it by my throat, and she unlocked the driver's door. I couldn't understand why they were doing this. I didn't really feel in danger, oddly enough. I didn't feel in danger. I felt I could talk my way out of anything. And this very large Native American man with long, greasy hair, who I later called Greasy Man because he smelled bad and his face was just totally pockmarked, and he just was wild, and he kept screaming, and he had a knife, and he put the knife to my throat, and he grabbed me out of the car. And I had bare feet because I drive barefooted, and he pulled me around the back of the car, and I kept saying, I don't have shoes on, please, slow down, you're hurting my feet. And he pushed me into the passenger side of the car, into the passenger seat in the front. And all this time I kept saying, why are you doing this? Stop, you're hurting me, you're hurting me. And he got in the driver's side, behind the wheel of my car, and Greasy Man reached up his knife to my throat, and I grabbed his knife with my hand and pushed it away and cut all the fingers of my violin hand. The other man yelled, we've got to get her car off of the freeway. And Greasy Man, who was in the driver's side of my car, he started my car off and he followed the other car. And while he was doing that, he was reaching over at me with his knife and stabbing me just randomly in the chest. And he stabbed me 5 times. And so by that time, my hand was bleeding, my chest was bleeding, and they drove to a dark farm road. There was no lights. It was a beet field. And so it was out in the middle of Idaho, in the middle of nowhere. And at that point, I turned to the woman in the back. I turned and looked over my left shoulder, and I said to her, please, please don't kill me. I have a family. I want to live. And at that moment, the man who was sitting behind me grabbed my hair and pulled my head back and cut my throat. And the man who was sitting in the driver's seat said, "Give me your money, give me your money." And he put his greasy hands in my pockets, and he took my wedding ring off of my bloody finger. And I had given him my wallet, and it had my driver's license and $40 in it. And he was furious that I only had $40. And I turned back to the woman and said, "Please don't kill me." And she says, "Well, go ahead and beg me for your life." So I opened the passenger side door, and I got out and I got on my knees. And I looked into the car at these three people. And I put my hands like this and I said, "Please don't kill me. Just take everything. I have children, I have a family, I want to live." And at that moment, the other man who'd driven their car came around from the back of the car, and he had a baseball bat. And it was a metal baseball bat. And he said, "Okay, we're gonna kill her now." And I remember just being so angry at her and saying, "You said you weren't gonna kill me." And she said, "Well, we're gonna do you a favor. We're gonna knock you out first, and then we're gonna kill you." And so I put my head on my arms on top of the car, and the third man bashed my head in with the baseball bat, and I fell on the ground, face down. And I was face down in the dirt, and I felt like someone was pounding on my back. And I found out later that I'd been stabbed 17 times in my back. And that was the first moment where I really thought, if I don't pretend to be dead, they're going to really kill me. I could tell their car was leaving, I saw lights leaving, and I was left in the dark, in the beet field. At that moment, I saw a car coming. I saw headlights approaching my car. And I waved my hand, "Come help me, please." And it was these people come back. And the greasy man came up to me and he said, "Oh, so you think you're strong?" Because he was surprised that I was still alive. And he took his knife and he slashed open my shoulder. And they beat me with the metal baseball bat again, and I fell face down on the earth. And then I heard this whoosh sound, and they had set the car on fire. They'd used some kind of flammable liquid and set the car on fire, and they drove away. And at that moment, very bright white light surrounded me, and I heard voices again. And I had the thought, oh, they've come back again to make sure I'm dead. And something told me, no, these are teenage voices. These aren't the same voices. And these two teenage boys had been driving home from watching videos, and they'd seen the car fire out in the field. And so they'd called the fire department, and then as teenage boys do, they wanted to come down and see the fire. They thought it was cool. And I heard them and I yelled, help me, I'm out here." And they came out in the field and found me, and they each grabbed an arm and a leg, and they dragged me probably 50 feet away from the car before the fire hit the gas line and the car blew up. And in pulling me away, they dislocated my shoulders, but they saved my life. The attackers setting the car on fire was what saved my life. Because if I'd just been out in the beet field, I would have just bled to death and died, and nobody would have ever known what happened, and those people would have never been found.